Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I believe that it's very fair to say that in terms of adoption, XRP has reached escape velocity. We're no longer living in a world where it's some sort of big question as to whether or not XRP is going to live. Whereas if, you're investing in perhaps a small cap coin, there's a lot more uncertainty. Is it a rug pull? Does the technology actually freaking work? Is there a hole in the code and somebody's going to expose that I'm going to lose everything? Will there be actual utility surrounding this code? Those types of questions, we're way past that with XRP. We are way past that with XRP. And it's an exciting position given that there's still, even, over a decade later, there's not that much money in XRP despite that being the case. And so I want to share with you something that was discussed between two well-known individuals in the world of crypto because they had a long conversation. It was an hour and 11 minutes, and I listened to the whole thing earlier today. But there was this particular moment where Ripple came up and XRP came up. And one of the guys that was talking, Dan Tapiero, he's the guy on the right on your screen here, he was talking about how XRP it has an actual network effect, and what he means by that, the point, and I'll share with you his exact words as we get into the video. The broad point that he's making is that it's had this runaway success in terms of actual network adoption, and if it were gonna go to zero, it would have already happened. So outside of something incredibly unlikely happening, I'm just telling you, XRP has become a standard for certain use cases. And once something becomes a standard in life in general, and especially if we're talking about technology and the way money moves around the planet, once something becomes a standard, it is hard to supplant that standard. So before going further, though, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, and by the way, if you want to check out this whole this whole discussion, the hour and 11 minutes, you can see what to type in. It's on your screen there. This is Raoul Paul's channel. It's on his, Raoul Paul the Journeyman, and he titled it Dan Tapiero, The Crypto Bull Market, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I'm a fan of both of these guys. Raoul Paul, he actually, he's been in traditional finance his whole life, but he's all in crypto now. And used to work at Goldman Sachs, the whole 9 yards. And he started looking into XRP in late 2020 before the lawsuit happened. And I remember him being public about it because he was getting scorned by all the toxic Bitcoin maxis. And he's basically said something along the lines of, I'll not be told what I can talk about or look into. It's something along those lines. And it just stood out to me. And I just like that he pushed back against the toxic portion of the people in the world of crypto, and he did end up purchasing XRP. And at the time that it was around $1, I remember him saying that he doesn't think it's unreasonable to actually go to next. So he's certainly pro XRP. Now, Dan Tapiero, he actually hadn't really looked into XRP to this point, which is kind of interesting. But I'm still gonna because I'm gonna kind of give him the benefit of the doubt here and prop him up a bit because I think it's not as crazy for someone like him. It could sound crazy on the surface, though, because Dan Tapiero, he actually runs a fund in the world of crypto. Here you can see 10T Holdings, and this is another picture of him right here. You can see managing partner, CEO, and CIO. And this particular fund has $1.2 billion in assets under management, and he acknowledged, hey, I haven't really done the work on learning about XRP. And you might think that's kind of strange here, but it's actually not, and the reason I say that is because this particular fund that he's in, it's not venture capital, and it's not directly investing in cryptocurrencies themselves. And he acknowledged publicly, even in the video I just watched, and I'd seen him speak a number of times. Seems like a real intelligent guy. He had said, there are all sorts of people that are great at figuring out all the technology behind each blockchain or each individual cryptocurrency, whatever it may be. He's like, that's not the world that I live in. That's not what I'm looking to do. And his fund here at 10T, what he's investing in is companies in the world of crypto, because there is a market for that, as evidenced by the fact that he has $1.2 billion in assets under management. And so he's not looking for the startups. He's not venture capital. He's looking for firms that have been around long enough that they're considered, in his eyes, to be mid or large cap entities, and he's looking to have, a 5 to 10-fold increase over the next decade. Which, if you look at, price action for crypto, that can happen in a frickin' afternoon. But that's a different world. I'm just saying there's different risk tolerances and interests in terms of investing. So there are people that want to invest in cryptocurrencies themselves, but they also want to get some exposure in the companies that are working in blockchain and crypto. And then on top of that, they'll be diversified in other asset classes. So it's not crazy. It makes sense. Crypto is obviously the most appealing, but I understand why this exists. And the point being here, he sees these as the companies that are most established and likely to be here. He thinks a bunch of them are probably going to IPO in the coming years. And he said as much. And he's also recognizing, though, that there are certain older cryptocurrencies that have achieved network effects. For instance, Bitcoin, ETH, and, drum roll please, XRP. And it's so obvious to people like me. And so even though he hasn't done the work to figure out exactly why we like XRP, he's wise enough to understand that it has reached escape velocity. It has had that network adoption. And what they're basically talking about, and I've seen Rob Paul talk about this all the time, it's Metcalfe's law, and defined right here as Metcalfe's law states that the financial value or influence of a telecommunications network is proportional to the square of the number of connected users of the system. The law is named for Robert Metcalfe and first proposed in 1980, albeit not in terms of users, but rather of compatible communicating devices. And so, look, I've seen Metcalfe's law applied a number of different ways, certainly in crypto, but typically when it's used, they're talking about exponential growth of a network, and they're just noting once that happens, that's a real thing, and it doesn't just quickly cease to exist, typically speaking. So outside of something wild happening, we're right, XRP made it. That's the broader point that I'm trying to get at here. And so I want to share with you the actual quote now. So this is from Dan Tapiero. And again, and his background, by the way, his entire career is in traditional finance. But more recently, especially over roughly the last half a decade or so, he's been obviously very heavy in crypto, started his own damn fund. To him, it's just, you should hear him talk. It's just, he's right, it's inspiring, and it's like, yeah, duh, it's a no-brainer. And to anybody that is not in this, you done messed up, effectively. That's the message in a nutshell. And he words it quite eloquently. But anyway, here's the quote from him where he's talking about Ripple, and he's also talking about XRP. He does conflate the two. So I'm just going to note that, and I'll probably stop to mention a couple things as I go through this particular quote from him. I'm just going to read it as is, even though he's conflating the two. That's because he doesn't know better. He literally doesn't know better. And you could argue that he should, okay, but his thing is not researching individual coins. It's about getting exposure to the space. As you can tell by the fund that he launched, he wants everybody to have exposure. That's his message. Although he did acknowledge, okay, yeah, I probably should have looked into this one. And so I appreciate hearing that as well, because it's obvious. And the reason I'll say that too is because there are only 3 cryptocurrencies in existence out of over 20,000 different cryptocurrencies. There are 3 that have always, for the entirety of their existence, been in the top 10 crypto coins by market cap. And that would be Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP. So he knows about Bitcoin and ETH, doesn't know about XRP, but those are the only 3 in existence that have always been in the top 10 coins by market cap. That's it. That is it. Here's his quote. It's impossible to think that there are only going to be 2 or 3 protocols that achieve network effect, right? Arguably, and I don't want to get into this now, but arguably, Ripple, which I don't really understand, is a $40 billion asset, and then the company is worth somewhere between $5 and $10 billion. Okay, so pause right there. Like I warned you, he is conflating the two, but he literally doesn't know better. Is what it is. It's fine. There are a lot. I was a little surprised that he hadn't done really any work looking into it, admittedly, but that's not the world that he's been living in. So he's been in crypto, but he's been looking at it from a different angle, and there are so many different things that you can look into when it comes to crypto, and I think he's being intellectually honest, and he recognizes enough, like he's seen enough conversation about it in the world of crypto to know that there is dispute here. There are so many Bitcoiners that hate XRP because they're intellectually just dishonest, ideologically cult-like, and just miserable people to like engage in conversation with on a daily basis. It's all. So there are those people, right? And I think that he's kind of caught a whiff of that, let's say. And then he says, and this is the rest of the quote, and they've been around for 10 years. So ordinarily, you would say Ripple's achieved network effect. You don't hear many people really talking about how great Ripple is, but they've been around. Ripple, if it was going to go to zero, it should have gone to zero. Why hasn't it gone to zero? I don't know. We haven't done the work on the business we probably should have. End quote. And so I could hear in his tone, like, he's not saying that as some sort of negative. He's not trying to rip on XRP. He's acknowledging, again, A, he hasn't done the research. He literally means he doesn't know why. That isn't some sort of insinuation that it should have gone to zero, this or that. And then B, that it has achieved this runaway adoption and success. He's acknowledging that's the case. He's saying if it's been over a decade and it's still here, there's something to this then. And he's acknowledging that he probably should have looked into it. And yeah, he probably should have looked into it, but I'm not going to give him grief over it. I've said my piece on that. Some people are going to be harder on him than me, but to me, I'm just like, there's a lot of coins out there. I'm not going to be aware of every single thing that's happening in the top 10 cryptos, although I will say, I am aware of the only 3 coins that have been in the top 10 cryptos by market cap for the entirety of their existence. So I do have that, okay? There will be coins coming in and out of the top 10 where I'm like, oh, that's a new one. What the hell is that? Like, I've had that happen, X number of times over the last, 6 years that I've been in crypto. But, to not be aware of the only 3 in existence, that was a little bit more surprising. But still, I appreciate the intellectual honesty. So Rob Paul already knows that. He already started doing the work in late 2020. They were giving him crap over it. Dan Tapiero, he recognizes, okay, should probably do the work on this. But he can even see without knowing anything else that if it is in that position, in the top 10 cryptos by market cap, and it's been over a decade, there's probably something to this. Even somebody that doesn't know the rest can intuit that's a reasonable thing to surmise. That's what I'm saying here. Very obviously, right? So, if you ever worry, am I doing the right thing? Well, I can't tell you for you whether or not you should or shouldn't invest in anything, whether it's XRP or anything else. But in terms of the viability, if you ever wonder whether or not XRP itself is long-term viable, my personal opinion, and it seems that Dan's coming from the same place, is that barring something ridiculous and unforeseen, XRP is just one of the coins that it has reached escape velocity. It's just here. And so either we have exposure to it when it hits a new all-time high and enters price discovery, or we don't. And I do. A lot of it. And I'm just going to ride this thing out and see what happens for better or worse, because I could be wrong and it goes to zero. That's possible. But I do not think that is the most probable thing to occur. So we'll see what happens here. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.